about 1902. An old picture of Hampton Pier, 1902. The Seafront, the pier shops and pavilion before it was burnt down. Notice no bandstand, only the flagstaff. This flagstaff was erected immediately opposite Richmond Street to come in line with the War Memorial Park. So as you look up the War Memorial Park through, you should see the flagstaff. This was before any bandstand was built. This was the start of a road race about 1902 from the pier. This is another one, a 1904. As you can see, before the pier was built, but there's no pavilion. See the fruit machines around the balustrades? The balustrade of the pier was part of the old London Bridge, which the Americans thought they bought. When the old barges used to come run along and be unloaded at the slipway, which is now opposite the angling club, there was a small slipway where horses used to pull up the timber and coal which was being unloaded. In the distance you can see Mr. Gibson's yacht, motor yacht Duke of York, in operation. A picture taken from the opposite side of the road with the Marine Terrace down along there. There's Prospect Hill in the distance, and where the cabbage patch is, it used to be Eagleton's Albany Bread Company was a restaurant before it got burnt down. After it was burned down, they built the casino, and at the side was the Tudor Cafe. Another picture taken from a different angle of the self-same area. You can see the cabs, horse and cabs there, and the fountain with the trough where the horses used to drink from. This is a picture taken from this. Here we have the old town hall, or the cinema, the fire station, and just behind the person running there's Adolph Hills. Used to be the ironmonger and builder's merchant. Here we have the start of the fire of the town hall and the part next to the fire station, and in the foreground you can see one of the old steam pumps which they used to have to get the pressure up for the water for the fire brigade. You can see the fire brigade holding, one of the firemen holding the hose pipe there. Not a great deal of pressure compared with today's carrying on. Self-same picture taken from the self-same fire taken from a different angle. You can see the old steam pump there pumping away, and the force of the water not so great. This was Palmer Brothers' garage, the start of it. The picture at the back was where Heathcotes live. They've lived in the house since 1904. In the picture itself, was starting from right to left, was F.C. Palmer, my grandfather. There was Peter Palmer, Jack Palmer, and the little lad in the distance was Gilbert Perrin. The car with the emblem on the front, the nearest the left, that was Marie Lloyd's car, the actress. Charlie Palmer used to be the chauffeur for her. This is the Herne Bay Canterbury coach. On the back of the card it states 1904. This was taken somewhere in Canterbury. This is some of the wreckage from after a storm about 1924, west side of the pier. You see St George's Terrace up the top, and you can just see the tea room in the large department. The old dinghy doesn't look not fit for much these days. This was the fire of the Pier Theatre in 1928. This was the aftermath of the fire, where you can see the Pier Hotel, St Anne's Home, and some of the fire brigade still damping down. Again, this is the aftermath of the fire, looking from the top of St George's Terrace. The fire's been cleared away, but the pavilion in the back is almost completely ready for action. There we have Carter Patterson's horse and cart, and some of the cars. See the pier full length. A regatta at Hampton. Down there's the beer tent, and there's a shed there I think the rowing club used to keep their skiffs in. About 1934 I think this is. This is Jack Palmer and two lads from the rowing club taken down at Worthing, and they've taken these skiffs down for a regatta. About 1932. One of the first charabancs to be operated from Herne Bay. You can still see the council licence plate on the back. 20-seater. I think the licence number was either 43. This is Jack Palmer up on the top there at Worthing at 1930. This is taken from a very small photograph. This is the Green Howard Band, 1924. You can see they're just starting to get the windbreaks around the side of the bandstand. Just look at the old-fashioned cars and the bikes. The Tower Gardens, again about 1924. You can see the flags on the flagstaff. The 18th of the 7th of 1924. This is 1928. As you can see the back there, they've got old-fashioned pram in the foreground. At the back we have Vic's Cafe. The Vic's Cafe, the windmill, the willow tea rooms, the old fountain, and the shelter. The fountain has now been moved up to opposite the Dolphin Hotel on the Seafront. Herne Bay, 1934. And the Malthouse building over there with spired roof used to be Loder's Cafe. There was a fire there in about 1933 which burnt down, and it's had a very varied life since. This is Wormleighton's Folly, a shelter. It was named Wormleighton's Folly because the way it is built as a shelter, but it's open to the northeast, the north and the northwest winds, which are very cold. On this picture here is Jack Heathcote, Gilbert Perrin and Mick Rodwell. This picture was taken about 1936. There's the casino, there's Macari's, the Tudor Cafe, the Clock Tower, and the old cars which you can see, and just behind the car is the horse trough. This is 1941, when the Battle of Britain was on. On the pictures, first picture is Fred Palmer in a rubber dinghy collecting money for the Spitfire Fund. In the second picture is Johnny Heathcote and Harry Scott. There were about 20 pilots which came ashore in Herne Bay from the fights, Germans and English, and after they came ashore they were taken over to the Royal if they were in a sound state to have a drink and a warm up, after which if they were Germans they were taken away, or if they were the British they were taken away to the various hospitals or aerodromes. This is a picture of Peter Smoothie and Fred Palmer on board the Girdler lightship, 1939, and the number of the lightship was 79. This is what Herne Bay Seafront looked like during the war. In the picture we have Beryl Shaw, Heather Collins and Sally Palmer. The whole seafront was clad in scaffolding like this, smothered in barbed wire to stop the enemy from coming ashore. Thank God they never got here. This is some of the boating personnel that used to work on the seafront just after the war. On the right hand side is Harry Scott, then comes Pud Holness, Harry Mannering, Fred Palmer, Jess Mount, I don't know the next person, Johnny Heathcote, Mick Holness and Mary Holness. This is Fred Palmer's boat, the Doreen, which he bought off of Harry Scott. This was taken in 1948. Again, this is Fred Palmer's boat, where he used to advertise with a ticket for fishing parties catered for. This was the Bluebird in 1950, a new boat built at Whitstable by R.J. Perkins, which had a Thornycroft Handy Billy engine in it. Used to run on start on petrol and run on paraffin. Here we have the Channel Forts. This was taken in 1950, and we used to run the trips out to there, which was a 3-hour trip, costing 7 and 6. This is a closer up picture of the forts. As you can see, there's a boat hanging there. That was about 22-foot boat, and up on the walkway is one of the troops. On top of the forts they used to have 4.5s, guns, pom-poms, searchlights, and here we have another closer up of the forts. On the further fort you can see some troops walking around the top. And this is what the forts looked like in 96. Very much dilapidated. This was a show on the pier, Cecil Buckingham's Crazy Capers, 1952. The Bluebird on the beach by the pier. You can see the pier and the amount of people that are walking on the pier. A picture of the Midway Queen at the pier head, bringing a load of passengers in. This must have been about midday, because it was 12 o'clock it used to arrive and take a load of passengers back to Southampton, to Southend, and return by 5 o'clock in the evening. This was the aftermath of the flood in 1953. In 1953, when we had the flood, the water went right the way back to the Station Road, Spencer Road. The whole of the park was flooded. Richmond Street, Hanover Street, Mortimer Street, Beach Street, Central Parade were all flooded. In Beach Street, the water was to a depth of 8 feet. Here you can see the Rosemary Cafe, the Willow Tea Rooms, which had the revolving window in. This was Fred Reynolds' shop, right opposite the clock tower in 1953, after we had the flood. You can see Fred Reynolds standing in the doorway, sweeping the water out. This was October, pulling the boats up after the fishing competition in 1956. Here we have Fred Palmer's new boat in 1960, the Sea Spray. There's Charlie Palmer and Fred Palmer. This was the Promenade in 1957. Quite a few people on the beach, and the flags all up on the bandstand. Promenade in 1975 at Herne Bay. You can see this apron down in front of the sea wall. This was built by the German prisoners of war, because during the war the sea got under the sea wall and it withdrew all the shingle. You could walk almost from the bandstand through to the clock tower. After the apron was put in, they had to refill the back of the wall with beach, which was quite a long job. This was the start of the fire on the pier. The pier getting well away. You notice in those days we used to have the cycle hire. There was the miniature golf, crazy golf, and see the piles of deck chairs around the bandstand? No deck chairs left today. And we still don't know what they're going to do with the bandstand. The fire well and truly out of control now. You can see the fire pumps, or the hoses, coming up from the bottom of the sea, from the beach, where they were pumping it out the swimming or the boating lake. The fireman up on the top. This photograph was taken in 1984, where it is revealed where the oysters used to be. The first shop on the corner, just over the Mazda van, was the first East Kent bus station, or bus office, in Herne Bay. Next to that was Wages, which sold coal, coke, corn and haulage. And next to that, which is now Reynolds, used to be Wheeler's Oyster Bar, Cockle and Wilkes. Downstairs they sold the cockle, wilks, lobsters, crabs and all that sort of thing. And up in the 3 rooms on the top was the restaurant or the cafe. Here we have some of the old motorboats of the town. There's the Skylark, run by Hood Holness at the back there, with a load of passengers up, running from the Neptune jetty. Here we have the Kingfisher, operated by J. Heathcote. Here we have the Bluebird, operated by Fred Palmer. Here we have the Sunny Boy, operated by Sid Edwards, Alf Edwards and Jack Edwards. This is one of the oldest boatmen of the town. This was Charlie Mount, always known as Slarley, because he couldn't sound his C's. He used to dig bait, sell bait on the box by the pier, and also do his nets, like shrimp netting. He was quite a character on the seafront up to about 1960-65, for which he is now deceased. This is one of the last passenger carrying motorboats we've had in Herne Bay. This was run by Roger Turner up to about 1977-78. And that is, I think, the end of the old motorboat lines. Here we have an old picture of Hern village, the start of the hunt. There we have the Smugglers Inn, the old butcher's shop, which now has a room put above the top and built up. The rest of the area looks very much the same, except for the amount of traffic. Here we have horses and hounds. Here we have a shot of looking down School Lane. There's the Hern Church. Looks like it was just a cart track then. While we're in Hern, this is the old German 1914-18 gun. Now at the bottom of Curtis, or was at the bottom of Curtiswood Park Road in Hern. You can see the iron fencing of Hern Street coming round, and sitting on the cannon was Charles Palmer, Sally Palmer and Fred Palmer. It is now gone. It was taken away during the war. We have a coloured postcard of the pier pavilion and the old pavilion and the new pavilion. Please note the scaffolding are still working on the pier pavilion. It's not completed as yet. And you see the horse and trap, and in the right foreground is the old horse trough. This again before the Information Bureau was built. Again you can still see the scaffolding outside the pier pavilion. This picture must have been taken about where the clock tower is. Before any bandstand, the pavilion is well underway and the inside pavilion is still there. The date on the stamp here is 1910. Another shot from 1910. The post date on this is 1911. Please note the old charabanc in the front of the pier and the pier gardens. A view of the pier in 1956. Uncle Colin's children's playground. Looking east from, I think, St George's Terrace. Here we have the booking office and information bureau, the gents' toilets and the ladies' toilets. One of the East Kent, or two of the East Kent buses, or coaches, or charabancs, whichever you like to call them. The bus nearest the bandstand is in the position where the East Kent bus station used to be, or bus stop. Post date on this one is 1926. Central bandstand again, 1926-27. Look at the number of people there are in the bandstand and up on the top. Post date on this card, 1928. 1930. Post date. a view again, aerial view I would think this time, looking east before the bandstand again, a view of the seafront looking from the pier, again before the bandstand. Little fountain, horse trough, no date on this, I should imagine it's about 1908. We now have a few colour photographs of the seafront, or postcards. This was taken from Prospect Hill, looking towards the clock tower. No date on this card. 1909. The post date on this card is 1909. You can see the pier is now up. There are no shelters on there yet, and there's no pavilion. This must have been one of the first coloured photographs or postcards to be printed for Herne Bay. Looking east from the pier. Looking west from the clock tower, no bandstand. The pier has been erected but no pavilion. Quite a few people on the promenade. A different sort of card now. We have a coloured one with a gilt frame. Quite attractive. Again, this is 1908, the post date. (1909) again, post date. This is Herne Bay seafront. Very, very windy. It looks like a strong northeast wind blowing. You can see the flag and the state of the sky. This is back in 1913. See the Cockles and Wilkes stores there, the pony carts, the fountain, and quite a lot of people on the seafront. This is at the position where the slipway used to be. You can see the cobble stones there. This is 1909. Looking from the clock tower jetty westwards. This is the ship in looking west, 1903. The ship in looking east in 1903. King's Hall. The Downs with a band going on at the King's Hall bandstand. The King's Hall 1934. As you can see, there's the old army gun, 1914-18 gun there. There's a monument to the World War I. The Downs, Herne Bay. The King's Hall with all the deck chairs on them. And do you notice the name on the back? HBUDC, Herne Bay Urban District Council. No deck chairs about now. Things look very good and gay in those days. Here we are up on the East Cliff shelters, looking westwards. Look at the number of swimmers there were down there. I don't know what date this is. I would think it's somewhere about 37, 38. Some of the old seafronts of Herne Bay. Look at the old lampposts we had there. This is Reculver Village, 1868. This is Reculver Church, 1800. This was before it was demolished and the new church built at Hillborough. St Mary's of the Virgin at Hillborough has been built from the remains of the old church which was here. Beach at Reculver, you can just see an old barge going round the corner, sailing barge. In 1809 this was the doorway of the old Reculver Church door. Here we have the old Hern village at 1908, or the post date was 1908. And the old horses, the shower bank or horse and coaches coming up. The street hasn't altered very much at all, except that the upper red line has now been taken down and moved further back. And the lower red line is not a pub anymore. At this present day it's got a notice up for sale by Wilbur's of Herne Bay. Again, this is another one of the old Hern village, but you can see the upper red line is right on the roadside. This is old Hern Church, and the post date on this is 1907. This is Hern Church at 1917 post date. You can still see the old yew tree which is used today for the Christmas tree lights on the corner of the tower. This is Canterbury Road, Eddington. The village is very, very much the same as it was in those days, with the old horse and trap. At this present day it's a bit different because they're starting to build the motorway. On the white building just there, it has one of the old fire notices, and it still has it on it to this day. Another very old postcard. Do drop in, you're always welcome in Herne Bay. The players left to right are Vic Hall, Reg Spice, Dick Laker, Ted Crane, Percy Martin. Mr Spice, who lives in Eaton Place, also played cricket and football. Some more of the old time hockey players. Don't know who they actually are. I think they must have been on the pier, where it has the notice above hockey players. Here we have another hockey team. I know two of them. On the right hand side is Freddie Cornelius. On the left hand side at the bottom is Eric Neal. Who the others are, I don't know. I believe this is a Whitstable hockey team. We have a little collection of Herne Bay Academy or Kings Road Council School pupils. I don't know who they are. We're looking across the playground, seeing South Road and Kings Road. Perhaps someone of you might recognise some of these pupils here. Some more pupils of the Kings Road School. This is 1948, Kings Road School. Must have been Sports Day.